The meeting of the Plaquemines Council as sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District will now come to order at 3 p.m. The machine is open for roll call.
Councilmember Edwards.
Mr. Edwards.
Yeah, let the record reflect that all 9 commissioners are present. At this point, I would like to turn the microphone over to Commissioner Champagne.
Thank you.
Can you put him on? Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Gooey. We're honored to have Scoutmasters Mike Mazingo and Carl Bowling and Scout Troop 106 from Bell Chase, who are here to earn their Citizen of the Community Merit Badge. This requires Boy Scouts to attend a council meeting, interview public officials, which they're going to do at a later time, and conduct community service. They are currently working with Commissioner Jurisic to volunteer at the Empire South Pass Dolphin Rodeo. At this time, Troop 106 will post the colors, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, recite the Boy Scout Creed, and that will be followed by a prayer by Commissioner McCarty. Please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Name of the Father, Son.
Scouts recite the Scout Creed. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to guide my country, to obey its scout law, to help my people at all times, keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and straight, honest, trustworthy, loyal, friendly, courteous, kind, clean, cheerful, brave, clean, and reverent. Two.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Jesus, we thank you for your bountiful blessings, especially for our parish's natural resources. We thank you for inspiring the courageous men and women of our military to daily risk their lives and protect our precious freedoms. And we pray for our world leaders to know how to obtain world peace. We pray that this government body, comprised of both council and administration, always serve Plaquemines Parish with honesty, humility, and equality for all. As this government body gathers here today, we pray for the wisdom to know the right from wrong and the courage to do that which is right. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. We would like to thank the Boy Scout troop. It's encouraging to see what our future leaders look like, and I think we're in good hands. Commissioner Champagne, is there anything you'd like to add?
Thank you all for being here, and looks like we have some other distinguished guests that are here also that may want to be recognized by my colleague. Want to mention your...
Yes, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I am on. I'm so excited to have these young people with us today. They're part of the District 1 East Bank Summer Recreation Program that the parish helped fund. I'm going to let Miss Nunu, as he's affectionately called by everyone, and while Darylyn come up, we want to give her sympathy. She lost her aunt on last night who transitioned on yesterday, but yet and still, she's still with the kid. So the kids you see, she'll tell you why they're here, and so I'll just turn the mic over to her.
Recruiting voters early, that rep.
You could be termed out, bro.
Yeah.
The grandson right there.
Come on in, we ain't gonna bite. I can say it was me. Think I can take it. Some of them.
Face us. There we go.
Good evening. As Reverend Edwards said, I am Darylyn DeMar Turner, affectionately known as Miss Nunu, with my kids. We just wanted to come by and give our gratitude and appreciation to the Plaquemines Parish Council for allowing us the opportunity to be able to provide a summer camp program to the kids on the East Bank side of the river. I just wanted you all to see that it wasn't a hoax. This is actually for real, that we did this for the last 7 weeks. And today is our last day, and I want to let you know that tomorrow is our field trip to Gulfport, Mississippi, and the kids are very excited. But without you all help, this would have been possible. So I just wanted to personally thank you all from the bottom of my heart and have the kids say thank you as well. Miss Taylor's not here, but we had a gift from Miss Taylor, because she worked very hard to make sure that this program went off without a hitch. So I do want to thank Miss Taylor from the bottom of my heart. She did everything she could to make it possible and easy for us. Reverend Edwards, without you, you already know, I cried, I begged, I practically said we got to get this done, and you were on board every step of the way. But thank you all so much. And to our parish president, Mr. Hinckley, thank you, really appreciate it. And let me tell you, this was not an easy task, dealing with 45 kids for the last 7 weeks. As you can see, I have no voice, and it's because I told them tomorrow is our field trip. You either behave or we're not going. So they're under the impression that we're not going on the field trip because they misbehaved today. But I just want to let you know that I really want to reward them, and thank you so much for providing that opportunity to us. All right.
And before you go, Darylyn, we still left out, we want to thank the legal department.
Oh,
because
absolutely, yes,
The role
yes.
that the legal department played in terms of helping make sure we got the stuff in, and we're hoping the next year will be an easier process.
And I do have my staff with me that worked every day and worked very hard. And it was easy for me, but it was very hard for them because I'm used to the kids and some of them are not. So they were like, this is a task, but we got through it. So again, thank you so much. And we're going to have the kids say thank you. Thank you. Oh, y'all so well behaved. I'm so proud
I'm
of y'all.
looking for 2 kids in particular, and I don't see them. Where my 2 at? Step on out here. Marley, come on out here. These are my 2 grandchildren. That's the professor right there, and that's Camilla. And I just want them to stand out. That's my people there. All right.
And this is for Miss Taylor. We wanted to give her a token of appreciation for working so hard with us. And is she here yet?
Yeah.
Okay. And Rev, she has a check for us, so don't forget to get that here from Miss Taylor.
Miss Taylor got a
Yeah,
check
she
for you?
got that important check for us.
You mean you brought all that planning and you ain't got your check? No, you know she's good for us. She's good
So,
for
but
us.
she said she'll bring it to you at the council meeting. I'm sorry, I had to bombard your meeting, but we had to say this and then get them out of here because we don't want them to get restless, because when the natives are still, they get restless, so.
And
thank you all
they've been
so
at the
much.
camp since 9 o'clock this morning.
Yes, they have.
Thank you, Darylyn, for all the
Thank
work
you
that
all
you've
so
done.
much.
But we have several college students with us, Ty, and what school you at once you get to the mic? And then where I saw Angela, where Angela at?
I left back out.
Angela with the plant, wasn't she? Yes. Ty, tell us what school you at and,
I go to Nichols State in Thibodeau.
okay.
Oh, and I'm majoring in psychology with a concentration in pre-counseling.
And then Angela, who's with us, I call her Angela, but
Larry out.
L'Ariel, she's at Grambling.
Grambling State University, she's majoring in criminal justice.
Yeah. So we're excited that these young people, what I'm hoping, Mr. President, that we could do something, and Dr. Gouin know about it, back in the days when kids was out of school for summer, we had young kids working in all the various offices. You remember those days where kids in college, when it was freshmen, when they came home, I hope we can get back to days where we can do that. So again, Darlene, thank you for all of what you've done, and I know Tia's not here, who's another dedicated staff person who worked at the Alternative Center during the week. Come on, Angela, come on up here. Let people know who you are. That's new number 2. Darlene daughter represent up there.
Well, I already said, but you can say it again. Oh.
The biggest G, Grand Fam. I'm Larry Elton. I worked at the camp. You know, it was a good time. So I'm ready for next year. That's it. That's all. You know.
Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all so much.
Just hold up a second.
Because the bus waiting on us.
Commissioner McCarty. Well, let me ask you, how did you ever master the art of herding cats? Because you got them all in, and I don't know how you did that.
Oh, well, I threatened them with the field trip.
Is that it? Yeah.
No, they're well-behaved kids, you know what I'm saying? They're just excited and they love to have fun, so, but, you know, they already know Mr. New don't play. Bottom line to it all, so they know.
Darlene has been doing this ever since Hurricane Katrina. We started a program and we tailored it for those kids who were 4 to 5 years of age, so we can give them some social skills before they go to pre-kindergarten or Head Start. So we tailor a program for those kids who were like from 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
3 years old, really. We started at the age
So,
3.
and she's been doing that for 14 years now, so the parents know the kids are in good hands. So again, thank you, Darlene.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff.
Yeah, Commissioner Edwards, I was one of those employees.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I made about 25 cents an hour.
Yeah.
You have something? Yeah. Commissioner McCarty.
Jonah Douglas, would you please stand? Jonah Douglas, would you please stand? Is he still here? And Christian, if you would turn the camera to the audience, please. I just want to acknowledge that Jonah worked on the Medal of Honor Park as his Eagle Scout badge project and was in charge of managing other scouts in cleaning up the park. So I just wanted to thank you since you happen to be here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's move on with the agenda.
Thanks again, Dr. Gould.
Yes, sir.
Item 2, executive session, discussion of ongoing litigation under LRS 4217A2 PPHTD versus State of Louisiana DOTD and Plenary Infrastructure Bell Chase LLC, docket number C731886, Section 31, 19th Judicial District Court, Parish of East Baton Rouge, State of Louisiana, Attorney Danny P. Garrett.
Also moved. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Commissioner over here. Schultz. Machine is open. And the executive session is approved unanimously. At 3:35, having taken no final or binding action, we'll move on with the agenda, please.
Item 3, status report by the Executive Port Director.
Sir? Microphones?
Good afternoon. Our shared vision. I'm still off? Is that better? Can you hear me? Okay, our shared vision of sustainable growth is guiding us through various initiatives and projects, shaping the progress of the port. And it is great, with great pride, that I share the details with all of you today. Moving forward, the executive director updates will be divided amongst the executive team, and we'll be providing details for everything on the agenda. Under Sustainability Partners, I am pleased to announce that the port successfully executed that agreement, and we're currently finalizing the Infinity Project Management Agreement. And our goal is to complete the intellectual property within the next 6 months for the 11-mile rail extension. That's only for the engineer planning for the intellectual property. Moving to the Peters Road Rail Bypass Project, on September the 20th and 21st, we're scheduled to visit Washington, D.C. for a joint meeting with Jefferson Parish, Plaquemines Parish, and the port. David Vitter from the Mercury Group is diligently working to set those meetings up as we speak. And further, on August 8th, we also plan to have a similar joint meeting with LED in Baton Rouge to discuss the pre-certification process for business development sites here within the Port District. I'm also pleased to inform that Jefferson Parish has introduced the CEA to foster closer collaboration with the port. This agreement seeks engineering and planning funding and collaboration with Jefferson Parish for that Peters Road bypass. And then just to cover a couple of important meetings that recently occurred yesterday on July 26th, the port met with the assistant administrator from the U.S. Maritime Administration and the other staffers. We also met with Senator Cassidy's local staffers in a separate meeting. In both of those meetings, we discussed port infrastructure projects in close detail, and we'll work closely with them with our future expansion process. And then I think lastly with meetings, Dr. Gouy, the chairman of the Port Board, and myself met with Mr. Joe Toomey, the chairman of the Port of New Orleans Board, and we discussed ways of collaborating closer together to work on initiatives that demonstrate, our commitment of creating a new narrative around the 5 deepwater ports here in Louisiana. And I'd just like to point out, most people are unaware, but when you combine Baton Rouge, South Louisiana, New Orleans, St. Bernard, as well as Plaquemines Port, we're actually the largest port district in the world when you look at the tonnage that we contribute to global trade. So we think that's a narrative that's worth collaborating on to make sure that our legislators understand that we're working together and the world recognizes the size and magnitude of our impact to global commerce. With that, I'd like to transition to the Deputy Port Director, Ms. Melissa Foss.
Hello. The port continues to secure the piano keys. These parcels are critical to the port's expansion. During this process, the port remains very focused on being respectful, fair, and sensitive to the landowners and the community during this process. So we're always open for conversations with the community as far as these landowners, because we want to make sure that this is a smooth and amicable matter and situation for them. There are 2 parcels that remain in the piano keys to be secured, and Dwyer Cambry and Louder & Broom are in the audience today should anyone have any questions. The Red Star Yeast Building, that's on the agenda for today. As the port continues to grow and expand, the acquiring of a new administration building is a part of our master plan initiative. Parish President Hinckley, as well as Mr. Tillotson, we are working together to secure this building to see what our options are. Today, we are voting on a $200,000 100% refundable deposit. This will remove the property from the market, and it will give us some time to perform some due diligence so we can determine if it is a viable building for us to secure. We also want the parish and the community to see this building as a community building, not just a port administration building. Our vision will include retail, leasing opportunities, community event centers, maybe a park, a coffee shop. So we want this to be something that the parish will look forward to and something that the community can be involved in as well. So now I will move over to our Director of Administration, our Human Resources Director.
Actually, why don't we go to Mr. Jalen Brown on the vessels?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Regarding the ferry landings, we're making steady progress with DOTD. Right now, we're making progress regarding the planning and the engineering for them. As Mr. Tillerson mentioned, we did meet with Maritime Administration this week. We met with the Waterways Administration, which deals with U.S. ferries at the federal level. Now, as of last week, we did submit our application for the FTA's passenger ferry grant, which amounts in a dollar amount of $6 million, which will help cover the balance of the ferry ramp funding. Now, moving on to the water booster station and DOTD port construction and development, we're entering into an intergovernmental agency agreement with DOTD to receive the first initial $5 million for the water booster station. Now, we're estimating around $4.2 million we will receive annually for the next 3 years. Now, we're going to enter into an agreement with DOTD, a reimbursement agreement with them, so we will make sure that we're constantly receiving that and make sure that the projects go off seamlessly. Next up, in the next portion of the water station, water lines. The water lines is estimated around 10 to 12 months, depending on equipment lead time. And for any questions regarding the process of the water line, the water boost station, contact Kyle Associates. Right now, the bid is out and presentations will be made to Kyle Associates around September 2023. Please coordinate with myself, the port team, and Kyle Associates and make sure that we're transparent and we get those bids and presentations in on time. Lastly, port construction update. We're working with the stakeholders in the area and the community, making sure that everything is going seamlessly with traffic and congestion in the area. I do want to go back to the boost station for a moment. Everything we're doing with the water line, the 20-inch water line, should help boost the water pressure to around 80 psi, not only for port expansion, but for the residents as well in the area. All right. Next, I'll move on to Director of Administration, Christy. Ms. Nielsen.
Good afternoon, Christy Nielsen. On the human resource update, we've continued our efforts to fill critical positions, including comptroller, legal secretary, 1,600-ton certified ferry captains, and deckhands. Fulfillment of these positions will strengthen our team and enhance our operational capabilities, not only for the port, but the community as well. We're continuing our efforts to meet with civil service regarding filling these many positions. Currently, we have 16 vacancies in our ferry department, 1 in our rescue boats, and 4 in our admin department. On the administrative side, this week, the executive team participated in the first series of a leadership development initiative training with the Sloan Group. Our next steps will include focusing on improving organizational morale and process controls. And next is our Director of Communications.
Good afternoon. I wanted to let everybody know that we recently participated in an interview with WDSU, and that aired on Monday at the 6 a.m., noon, and 4 p.m. newscasts. I want to thank Mr. Drexel Narcisse, who's actually here in the audience, who participated in that interview to give critical information about the Point Omaha Ferry ramp and our commitment to bring this back to the community. A link has been posted on all of our social channels so everybody can see that. And then we do have a very active online presence now on social, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You can head to all of those channels and follow us for any ongoing activities, updates, and that includes ferry updates as well.
So, thank you. So as we move forward, let us reaffirm our commitment to public service and to continued sustainable growth for the port. Together, as a united community, we will continue to shape the future of the port and our parish. I want to thank the commissioners, and as you have been unwavering in your support with the port's growth. That concludes our report.
Thank you, sir. What I'd like to do now is ask for public comment. And just as a reminder, this will not be a question-answer session, but if there are any members in the audience who would like to make a public comment, you're welcome to do so now. Come to the podium and state your name and address.
Arthur Henry, Belchase. I know this not a question and answer deal, but I've been living in Belchase all my life. And the Red Star East plant been there, 'cause we always play on the levee right by it. What I want to know, have all the asbestos been abated out of that place? 'Cause that plant been there for the asbestos.
Well, Mr. Henry, that will come up during the council meeting today, and we'll bring that to everyone's attention. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Anyone at the table? I'd like to lead off. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Tilton, I've had several constituents of mine been trying to find this question out. When the port was created, it was created saying that it would be an economic engine for the parish. And so can you explain to the people how the port would be economic engine? We know that the other plant, Global Venture, we know what they're doing because of the tax thing rolling high. How is the port an economic engine for our community? And the second part of my question, it might be goes to the human resources, is what is being done to really get the deckhands paid up to par because they're still underpaid. And so those are the things that I get. And so I would just want to bring, because a lot of our constituency are watching this meeting. So those are two main questions. How is the port an economic engine for the parish? And what is being done for these deckhands? And some of them been working for the parish for 25 years or more and still haven't received really pay, the kind of pay that it deserves. And so can you ask those two questions for me? I would appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for that, those two questions, Commissioner Edwards, and I think they're very valid questions. Starting with number one, the port is estimated itself to contribute about $1.7 million to the parish for interagency fees, for services that the parish provides. So that's just kind of a starter. And then the port contributes about $57 million, or is contributing about $57 million over the next 4 or 5 years in infrastructure development projects that partly will be supporting the port, but will also be supporting the parish as well. So for starters, the port has bonding and grant capability. So we've been awarded $25 million. I think we have $26.5 million available through Federal Highway and DOTD to build a new state-of-the-art ferry boat, and we are aiming to be very innovative. We're looking at a diesel-electric ferry that gives us a little more reliability than what we have today. We're looking at replacing the Pride. It's not going to be quite as big as the Pride, but it's going to be pretty close. But our goal is to make sure that is a much more efficient vessel that will help us to keep our costs down. So that's number one. Number two.
I want to get a clarity question on the one you're saying. When you're saying the amount of money you're talking about paying us for the service, for civil service, using the computers and all of, when you're saying that $1 million stuff you're paying the parish, the first lot of money, how you say that's for what?
So that's for, and that's actually the CEA that's on the agenda for today. So it is for, emergency services, 911, fire, ambulance. It's for civil service, a whole host of services that are actually provided for the port by the parish.
Okay,
And
I
the
just
ports-
want the public to understand what you meant by infrastructure fund. That because we're providing that service to the port, and the port is funding Paris back for the use of civil service, for our 911 emergency. I just want people to understand what that means, that's all.
That's correct, and I actually had those two separated, so I talked about the interagency fees first. So essentially, the parish provides services, and the port is actually contributing to the parish's costs. The infrastructure side, the ferry, obviously, the port has now had the ferry system for a year and a half. And Reverend Edwards, I think you can attest to my first week on the job. I came over to the East Bank and met with yourself and Miss Darrell Lynn to talk about issues with the ferries. I made a commitment to you and to the East Bank that, look, it's a challenge taking on the ferries, but we own it. We're happy that we have that first grant award, and we're happy that within the next 4 years, we're going to have a replacement ferry for the parish. And the port will be operating that, and the port is also having to match 20% of the grant funding, for this asset. Now, in addition to that, I think you also remember on January 25th of this year, the ferry landing on the west bank of at Point a la Hache was condemned by DOTD, unknowing to the port. We have since made a commitment to replace that with it's going to cost about $14 million. Of that $14 million, the port will be matching 10%. So the port is definitely focused on the ferries, on the landings, as well as a new ferry boat. And that funding is in the pipeline, and that impact will happen over the next 4 years. In addition, the port is working very closely with DOTD to provide the Alliance Water Booster Station, which the total project is estimated to cost about $19 million. The port will be matching about 10% of that, and the intent, obviously, of that water booster station, is to help continue with the continued growth of the port. But one of the benefits of that is going to be the 20-inch water line with 80 psi pressure is going to enhance the water pressure and the water flow for the parish. So that those projects alone, as well as I think there's another $4.5 million in lease taxes that are paid to the parish, and then there's another $5 or $6 million in sales tax impact, which as our cargo tonnage and revenue grows and our leases grow, we will continue to grow that. So there's about $57 million in economic impact over the next 4 years that's in the pipeline today.
Okay, so here's what I'm hoping, and I'm hearing all the infrastructure stuff, because I know we do tariffs and all those things. At what point you see this parish getting money, like for instance, we get a tariff, do we get part of the tariff money? When will we start seeing, after the structures are over, where money be coming to the parish, like sales tax from Global Venture, where people can really see that the port is economic? Because what I'm really concerned about, and it's just from my perspective, and I've been trying to figure it out for a count member, how the economic engine, because from where I'm sitting at, seems like I see a lot of businesses coming here, making a lot of money, through the parish, but I still don't see, but I'm glad to know that because of what you're doing, we getting ferries, build new ferries and all that. But I want to know at what point it really become an economic engine. That part I haven't figured out yet. And when people ask me, well, how the port, look like to me, it's just people making money, but I don't see no benefit coming because the decade still being paid a little money and all. So I'm just want to know at what point, and I don't know if that's something that you have to address, Mr. President, but at some point, how this port is really becoming an economic engine. And we'll talk later about, how people losing their land who've been there for generation to generation because we put in plants and we're putting business in, and we never thought about how large the footprint is because we're causing people lose generational wealth from their property because they came in. And at some point, are we looking at all those things at the grower port and global events? So I just, thank you for your answer, but I just think that's something we have to look at because the public want to see this port. Because at any point, even though we got Plaquemine Parish attached to the name, at any point, can that name come off of Plaquemine Parish and we'll set up a conglomerate that can go on their own? So that's my concern.
Yeah, so I'd like to take a shot at the second part of your question. We are working to generate a assessment and analysis on all of the ferry workers, from the captains to the engineers to our deckhands, and we recognize that that our personnel are underpaid. And we also recognize that as we get talented personnel, they're poached by the state. So we have become somewhat of a training ground. And so part of our analysis, is going to include figuring out how we raise those wages for our captains, our engineers, as well as our deckhands. I think you recognize the challenges that we have because the port actually received the ferries as an asset a year and a half ago, and the parish passed them over because they deemed that the ferries were better suited for the port to manage. I happen to agree with that. The ferries are on the waterways, so we own it. And I told you that my first week on the job, we own it. I also made it very clear 3 months in, after doing our financial analysis, the operational loss was about $3.9 million. I mean, we had a lot of discussions about that, and we recognize that that's a challenge in moving forward. And when we increase the salaries, that's not going to help bring our costs down. But after spending, 2 community meetings here on the East Bank and a total of 5 community meetings over a 6-month period, and if I'm not mistaken, it's been a long time since there's been town hall meetings, but there's been 5 in the last 6 months. We've listened very carefully to the commission and to the community, and we've made a commitment to building a new ferry system that is going to take us into the future. So the investment of $26.5 million and $14 million on top of a operating loss, in my opinion, we are actually, contributing to the parish, and that's part of that economic engine. In addition, we are looking very closely at all of our personnel, not only the ferry personnel. We have clerks that are underpaid, and we are doing the same assessment for them to ensure that we're able to raise their pay so that we can provide a better quality of life for them. So these are some very complicated issues that you are bringing up, and I acknowledge all of them. I've been on the board on the port now for 7 months. I know I can't really play the new guy card anymore, but what I can say is we understand it, and we got it, and we're going to work it. and we're going to continue to drive to make the port, more productive, more profitable, and my personal focus is to make sure that we create some type of foundation, where we can find other ways to give back to the community. And the other thing I'd like to point out is that, I was on the East Bank last week for a concern that was raised by a citizen. And I made it very clear that if concerns are coming up about something that's happening in the port, if it's construction, if it's on the waterways, if it's just trying to understand what we do, I'm available. If it's a town hall meeting, I'm available. I changed my schedule to make the Medal of Honor event because I was invited, and once I was invited, I had to completely change my schedule to be there, to show up. And we're going to continue to do that. It's not just me, it's this entire staff, and hence the reason that in the presentation today, I wanted to spread out our presentation in the executive director comments, because I think that it's important to understand that, we're in the trenches every day, and it's a team effort all the time, and we are closely working together to address all of these issues that you raised.
My last comment is this, is that, and I know my colleagues here are fighting hard to prevent any tolls from being on the Belchase toll. I'm hoping we have that same energy to get to the point where we can take the very expensive toll that we're paying to ride that ferry. So I just hope in the process that something could happen along that way, because we did dump it on you, and I'm clear on that, but that's a very serious concern. Continue to paying that dollar toll, because if they would put the toll on the bridge, those of us live on the East Bank, we still got to pay the toll to go across the river. So that is a big concern, how we lower it down. We had it where senior citizens wasn't paying. We had it where other workers during the day wasn't paying. So we just hope that we can get to the point where we get to the point in the past where we understand that we have a responsibility, because most of my colleagues, I've been hearing the word, everything is about business, business, business. But we in the business of people. And we can't never lose that. We're forgetting to serve the very people that we represented. But most of the people that I've been hearing, especially this particular council, everything comes, this is a business. You got to think business, Reb. You got to think business. Well, the people is my business. And we got to start thinking about how we provide service. And I will say this in closing. One of Charlotte Leander Perez is the most talked about man in this parish. Even though he made money for himself, he made sure that certain people got service. We have moved away from making sure that the people in Plaquemine Parish is taken care of, because everything that we're doing right now is about business. And so that's the end of my statement, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Just make sure that every commissioner gets a copy of your.
Yes, we'll definitely do that. And for the record, we send the executive director state of the port to Kim, and it's actually published with the minutes.
Okay.
So but we'll make sure that we email a copy to everybody as well.
Sir, your name and address, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Keith Inkley, Plaquemine Parish President, 112 Liberty Street, Belchase. I was going to come up and speak on one item, but it just all of a sudden jumped up to 4, but I'm going to make it short and sweet. As far as the sales taxes and the impact that the port and the port businesses having on the parish, we're going to see that in the near future with the rollover. It's also going to afford us what Commissioner LaFrance asked probably 6-8 weeks ago about giving the employees a raise. We were able to look at those numbers to where could we get that. I'm trying to shoot for $15 an hour, entry-level job coming into the parish. We were able to get it up to about like $12.85, but with the revenues, and we'll see the rollover here coming in the near future, we may be able to bump that up a little bit higher. So that's the impact that the port and the sales taxes are doing for this parish. Now, the sales taxes, the port doesn't see those earnings right there. Your school board, the fire department, and the government sees those revenues right there. Sheriff doesn't see sales tax. It's just strictly those three entities there that see sales tax revenues. The booster station, that project right there has afforded us an opportunity right now with the saltwater intrusion. We're piggybacking on that project right now. We're creating, at the end of the day, that project's going to be a 20-inch booster. But for the need for speed, we're creating, it's going to be an 8-inch booster station that's going to be pumping that water into the 20-inch line. And that project right there, that's the temporary project that should be, all of the materials should be here by the middle of next week. And probably towards, in a couple, 2 or 3 days later, or the beginning of the following week, that booster should be up and running right there. What I walked up here to talk about is the yeast plant. I had the opportunity to take a tour with RPC and Louisiana DEQ. And let me tell you, the building is solid. I felt safe. We were able to walk all the way up to the 4th floor. What we're doing is the Brownfield grant. The first visit was what we did Monday to see if it's even viable. Well, let me tell you, there's 13 acres of land out there. There's several buildings that can be remodeled. The main building, right now, the way we saw it, Adam with RPC and LD, the Department of DEQ, they saw what I saw. You know, I asked them, I said, tell me, do you see the positive right here? And they said, absolutely. So where we are, that was a site visit to see if we wanted to move to phase 1. So phase 1 is going to be coming up in the near future, where we go out for another visit and you identify if there's any mitigation that needs to be done. Basically, what we could see is the potential on, the roof panels, the wall panels. Those look like they may be asbestos panels, so that'll need to be mitigated. There's some paint that may be needed, because of the age of the building, it may have lead paint that needs to be mitigated right there. So once they come back with that phase 1 report, then we have to make a decision. Do we move on to phase 2? Because phase 2 now determines the cost of the mitigation. And that's where we go and find the grants. And I truly believe what's going to happen with the yeast plant, we are going to be, and once the public realizes, government has to do this process that we're doing right now. Private citizens, they can go through it, but it would cost them a lot of money. Government doing this process affords us the opportunity for the grants, which is no cost to Plaquemines Parish right there. But I truly believe that once the public knows that this mitigation process is in plan, in progress, the interest of that facility it's gonna peak right there. So if the port truly is looking to do something right there, it's probably not a bad idea. So I think it's something that would be a big feather in this commission's hat, the port administrations. I think it'd be a win-win for all of us in government and on the port side right there. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Thank you. So that's your president report?
Oh, I've got a little bit more. But
We'll put you on
we
a
don't want
clock.
to bore. Well, port business is exciting, okay? It's like having to follow Jerry Turlich, the sheriff at a meeting. It's like when you get up there and he gets to talk and he's got all these flashy things going on. And I'm like, now I get to talk about government, It's like, so, anyway.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for your cooperation, and yours too, Charles, because I've been sitting in this table, at this chair for a few years, and the level of cooperation between the port and the parish administration has never been what it is today. And I know that working together and communicating, we can maybe not have to reinvent any wheels. So, any council members, should we move on? Next item, please.
4, bids and advertisements, there are none. 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions.
All of the following introductions are under Commissioner Gui. An ordinance to rescind, annul, and set aside ordinance number 23-93, adopted on July 13th, 2023, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing Charles D. Tillotson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to exercise the option to extend a professional services agreement of R. Jones CPA and Business Advisors LLC for an additional 6 months and increase the contract limit and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution to extend the employment contract of the Deputy Port Director and Executive Counsel for 1 additional year, subject to renegotiations of the salary 6 months prior to the completion of the initial 2-year term and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing and directing Charles D. Tillotson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to purchase land owned by Kevin M. and Melanie C. Horner or their successors in title, which property is commonly referred to as Lot 51, totaling 10.36 acres, and with a legal description of Lot 51, Point Celeste Farm Subdivision Number 2, 248 on right descending right-of-way of Highway 23 by 1,685.62 feet by 1,658.62 feet by 293.78 feet, with the more formal legal description of said property attached hereto as Exhibit A and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2023 Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District Operating Expenditure Budget, General Operations Division, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to enter into a replacement agreement with the State of Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development under the Louisiana Port Construction and Development Priority Program for assistance in the implementation of a port improvement project, providing for the necessary documentation of the need for port improvement and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's it.
Thank you. Let's move on.
6, ordinances and resolutions on second reading and final passage. 6A, ordinances and public hearings pursuant to Article 6, Section 601E of the Plaquemines Parish Charter. 6A1 is deferred. 6A2, an ordinance authorizing and directing Charles D. Tillotson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to have the port's legal counsel file a petition pursuant to Louisiana Constitution LARS 1921 et sec as well as all other applicable laws, and to expropriate via a taking that certain land owned by Norman C. Rouse or their successor in title, which property is commonly referred to as Lot 53, totaling 1328 acres, and with a legal description of Farm Lot 53, Point Celeste Farms SD Phase 2, 340 feet, front on right descending RW of Highway 23 by 1701, 0.27 feet by 339.94 feet by 1697.11 feet, with the more formal legal description of said property attached hereto as Exhibit A and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Champagne.
I'll second. I would like to open the floor for anyone, public comment in regards to this particular piece of property. Any public comment on this particular piece of property? I'll open it to the commission first. Commissioner Konovich.
Have you had the meeting with Mr. Rouse?
Yes, we have.
How did it come out?
We've determined that we're too far apart, to even, even take it any further.
Because I read the email we got today about the appraisals and all, but the Tallgrass property was still appraised at a property where we could have built something, and we couldn't have got a permit because of CPRA. So the property shouldn't have been appraised at river frontage that you could have built a dock or something on, so it should have been appraised less. And we could have bought the property instead of giving it to CPRA. And y'all said y'all had the properties appraised and all, but, you know, that's where I'm at. Thanks.
Well, I mean, I think you recognize that, myself and the deputy director actually walked into that contract. And it's a separate deal. That deal was related to the contract, and it was between those parties, whereas this is a separate deal. So I understand your frustration with it and that whole appraisal process, and I can't really, talk to that other than, I've received verification, on the appraisal process for the Piano Key properties, and it was done in a valid manner, and we do have a representative from Latter and Bloom here if you'd like to have some comments on what the differences were.
I know y'all wasn't here at the time of the tall grass.
Can you talk to your mic?
I'll turn it on. Go ahead, try. How about? I will try it.
Hello. I know y'all wasn't here at the time of that contract, but that's the reason we couldn't have bought it, because it was appraised at so high of a value. And when we sold it, we should have had it appraised again, where it would have showed we couldn't have built nothing on it, because the CPRA blocked all the permits to build anything on it. That's
Well-
why I think it was a land speculation with CPRA and Tallgrass and the port at the time. But that's my opinion.
I mean, I hear your concerns, but it was contractually, the port's hands and the parish's hands were tied because that contract was done years ago, and it had an expiration date of December 30th, and it was very clear in the contract what the exit terms were, and we really didn't have a choice in the matter. We delayed it, and we talked about it for about 6 weeks, but we really didn't have a choice in how that transaction played out. Because it was a contractual agreement that took place, I think over 4 years earlier.
Yeah, but all of these properties was appraised at floodplains, so now they're not a floodplain because the levee was built behind them now. So,
I agree, and I think the properties have not been classified. I mean, that's the way they're classified. I hear the argument, but the properties are classified as being in a floodplain. And, I think that was in the letter, the explanation letter that I provided to the council that came from the appraiser, and which is consistent with 2 appraisers.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Newsom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You said you spoke with the Rouse family, and y'all for part. I don't want to go into the financials here, but with being far apart, what is it, 1 meeting? There were 2 meetings? This is, of course, we spoke about this earlier. It's an uncomfortable situation when you appropriate land from folks that's had there a long time. But Mr. Chairman, Mr. Champagne, I know we're deferring some other stuff. I'd like to see if we can defer this, because has anybody on this board spoke to Mr. Rouse and see what his concerns were, where we at? I had not. So, I know we deferred another Piano Key already. I'd like to see if we can defer this and maybe get some more, myself, I'd like to get some more conversation with the Rouse family, and see, like Mr. Tillotson said, they still fall apart, see what we can do to make it an amicable situation for all parties, if you don't mind. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, and I just want to really emphasize there, the port is constrained by what it can legally do, what it can legally pay. So, there may be a request to pay more, but if we can't legally do it, then it just puts us in a bind. And I would also like to point out that we are providing 2 appraisals, and we're taking the higher of the 2, and we're adding 20% on top of that, the highest appraisal. And if there are any mitigating factors, which we've run into a couple, it is definitely something that we are open to sitting down and talking about, and I'm very much open to meeting personally with the individuals as I have done over the last couple of weeks.
Thank you for that.
Yes, you're welcome.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Edwards.
I want to go back to Mr. Konovich because I really was confused about what you were saying. All of that went over my head. But I heard the part about appraisal being done for tall grass. And what I'm hearing, for me, just my understanding, because it kind of all went on my head, and I'm trying to say how it relate to what other people have been coming here the last couple of weeks talking about appraisal. Are you saying that they receive a different type of appraisal than residential people receive? Because I was trying to understand what you were saying. All of it went over my head. I'm just saying me. It went over my head. So could you just explain?
When we sold the property, Tallgrass couldn't get permits to build what they wanted to build.
Okay.
So you might as well say the land's worthless, because CPRA wasn't gonna let anybody build anything there.
It was worthless land.
So why should it have been appraised at the 35 million, was it?
How much?
36 million.
36 million?
And
How many acres?
76, 650 acres. But
It was 72,008.
Okay.
That's good for me.
Commissioner Jersey.
Charles, I know Mr. Rouse has a lot of metal on his property. Is that what his concern is? It's not just the property, the assessment of the property, it's the metal and everything he has sitting on it is what he wants to get paid for as well, or is he agreeing to move that off?
I think it's a little bit of both. We offered to assist him in finding somebody to purchase the steel off of his property. We were never able to determine the amount of tons of steel and the type of steel. That's an issue. And then he was also concerned with the appraisal process. And he mentioned that he needed to get someone to appraise the property from outside of the state because he couldn't find anybody here local that was willing to touch the process. The numbers that we're talking about, again, is the highest appraisal plus 20% is what the offer was on that property. And I would be more than willing, if he wants to come and provide the information with the steel information, I'm more than happy to assist in finding a place for the steel to go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just like Ronnie said, I'm not comfortable voting, on this until we really get a good, solid resolution on it. I mean, if there's an opportunity for him to sell that metal off or, something, or y'all assist on that or something, we can,
Okay,
maybe we can come back to the table on it. So.
we're good with that.
Commissioner Champagne.
Yeah, I agree with much of what my constituency is, my colleagues are saying, but we have to be concerned. There's also a timeline. At some point, we have to take a look at what we're trying to do, and there has to be a line in the sand. I know we have to be fair and equitable. I think Mr. Tellison has done a good job with that, but I think I'd like to have the gentleman from Ladder and Bloom come up again and explain one more time how this process works so we clearly understand. Although I'd like to be able to pay top dollar for everybody's property, legally, we have some rules that we must follow, and we're bound by them as well. So there's a combination of the rules we can follow and a timeline. So I'd like to have this gentleman speak, but also, Charles, we need to understand what that timeline looks like. So the commissioners up here understand what we're dealing with and know that we are trying to be fair and equitable, because I know you are, but again, I have the privilege of meeting with you a lot more than some of my colleagues. And with that, I yield. Sir.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Jacob Chris with Ladder and Bloom. Nice to be in front of you all here again today. So to reiterate Charles' previous explanation of the process, 2 appraisals are ordered on this site on these sites where needed in a good faith gesture to try to reach agreement. A 20% premium is added on top of the highest of the 2. Okay. In this event, that resulted in an offer of $192,000 for Mr. Rouse's 13.28 acres of vacant property. In the event, we do not. Yes, sir, $192,000 for 13.28 acres of vacant property on the land side with no river frontage. In the event that we were unable to reach agreement, we notified the port in spring of this year. That's when Dwyer Cambray, the port's attorney contractor, got involved to explore this process that's unfolding here in front of you today. Because of the added time and the added cost to the port involved in these taking proceedings, the recommendation was to still take the highest of the two appraisals at a premium, but a 5% premium, not a 20% premium. So still, in spite of this, to still attempt to be generous in recognition of the human element of these processes, obviously. That plus 5%, which was presented here today with final action request on the taking, amounted to $168,000. And per Mr. Tillotson's comment, the allegation that there's no appraisers who would look at this, that's inaccurate. There are additional appraisers who would look at this if we're interested in assisting the port to procure and find additional appraisers. That's something we're willing and able to do. So thank you all.
I have a question.
Wait, you're not up. I'm still up. I'm still on the floor. I'd like to also understand the timeline, Mr. Tillotson, that we're dealing with, along with the efforts from Ladder and Bloom, so we can kind of frame this for everyone's edification.
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to close all of this out by no later than the end of September. So, I mean, it takes, a couple of weeks to close. So I think we're starting to bump up on, the end of that timeline. But we are comfortable, if we want to defer, we can defer for another 2 weeks, have another round of discussions to ensure that, I'd like to ensure that, all of the council members are comfortable with all of the discussions that have taken place and are very clear on what our limitations are in terms of what the port can pay for those properties based on the appraised value.
And with that, Mr. Commissioner, how offer we defer this until?
Item 6A2 has been deferred. Thank you. Next.
3, an ordinance authorizing and directing Charles D. Tilton, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to have the port's legal counsel file a petition pursuant to Louisiana Constitution LARS 1921 at sec, as well as all other applicable laws, and to expropriate via a taking that certain land owned by Celeste D. Ankar or their successor in title, which property is commonly referred to as Lot 7, totaling 4.0 acres, and with a legal description of Lot 7, Point Celeste Farms, Phase 2, 200 feet by 880.0 feet by 890.0 feet by 200 feet, with the more formal legal description of said property attached hereto as Exhibit A and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gooey.
I'll ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Champagne. Prior to public comment, yes, I was going to call on you.
I think it might be appropriate for the sake of, one, of saving time, and two, most importantly, to be fair, that we defer this one as well, because I think we're going to have some of the same issues to discuss. But I think Mrs. Ankar is here, and, we're definitely open to hearing any comments, but, we definitely want to be fair.
Yes, and I agree, and that's what I was alluding to. So I'm in total agreement with you. So, Ms. Ankar, since you're here, we would appreciate if you come up and we could hear your comments. And so I will plan on deferring this and not taking action today to give you another 2 weeks to to maybe work with the port to come with some resolution. So your podium is yours, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Tori Ankar Olin, and I'm from Jesuit Bend. My mother, Celeste Ankar, and I own Lot 7 in Point Celeste. From what I understand, expropriation is used in the taking of private property for public interest under the right of eminent domain. While this power is recognized as public good, it also raises significant ethical and moral considerations. Undoubtedly, contribute to our society's advancements, but should always be accompanied by a deep commitment to fairness, transparency, and respect for private property owners. It is also essential to ensure that in due process and adequate compensation must be the cornerstones of any eminent domain action to safeguard against abuse and injustice. I don't feel like things are being handled very fairly. As of now, I am still unclear as to what progress is being established for public use of our properties. He did. I have heard more than once the land may be leased to private entities for profit upwards of $11 to $17 million. Will those funds be used for the public use or for the residents of Plaquemines Parish? Am I not unable to lease the property to these entities ourselves? I feel like our properties are being stolen from our family heirs, inheritance, and investments. The assessments of fair and adequate compensation must be based on a fair balance between the public interest and the injured parties, taking into account all relevant circumstances. I don't feel like relevant circumstances are taking into account of these offers. I've been presented with 4 different offers. One only $5,000 over purchase price 22 years ago, and gradually increasing in $20,000 increments. Now I'm being told to take it or not because the property will still be taken. How am I to feel that I am being offered a fair assessment for our property that's not for sale? My parents purchased this land as an investment, knowing the property would increase in value with talks of the largest natural gas company moving into the parish along with the flood protection levies. Our progress for the land came to a halt with the passing of my father much sooner than we could ever imagine, but at the same time, we own prime real estate on the Mississippi River. When the port is complete with their projects, will there be any riverfront property available? Prime real estate in what used to be the best parish on the West Bank is being stolen from the people, and for what true benefit? Expropriation is being threatened upon us and then being told that we are even to help the port pay for the process and taking of our land. Fair assessments, the highest of 2 appraisals completed, hired by the port, plus 20% of good faith. But if I don't bow down today, they take 15% of that offer away to help them pay for the process of eminent domain of my property for a contract that, from what I understand, is not even signed yet. The entire situation really makes me sick to my stomach, and I'm sorry. In these current times, we are living with the rate of inflation and the increase of everything required to we utilize to live, but the investment property, deemed not the best piece of land because of flood zones, did not increase with the times. The port definitely knows the value of the land. Our properties will increase 3 times the value once the plant is completed and the flood protection levies. I do not agree with how this is being handled, especially when the last 3 meetings, it seems as though people are still not on the same page and very vague responses and answers to every question asked. Lastly, my concern in knowing that taking up private land for public interest, for the benefit of the people in Point Celeste by the port, who is also now in charge of the Point Lahash Ferry, which has been down for months and now is expected to take an additional 2 years or longer to complete. And at the same time, I'm led to be made to feel or believe that all of this is for the good for the public interest. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'd like to respond before.
Yes, please.
And I just want to tell you, I think it's appalled because I had the parish attorney, our council attorney send me a letter about the expropriation. I just think we got to be very careful what we're doing for business. I'm for business, but we got to have a certain amount of footprint. I feel sorry for your mother who thought that she was getting some property for 5 generations from now. And now they moving. Today, the more 5 years from now, these businesses say, look, we done done enough minutes gone, but you lost your property.
Correct.
I believe that we have a council now whose only interest is about business, and not people. And you're giving a prime example. But my biggest question is, I want to go back to the part where you felt like the real estate person would threaten you, because I'm hearing that, and I've heard it from other people, and we need to address that.
Well, it was pressure for timeframes, and then the fact that the 20% is really not being provided to you. So that offer is being taken away. 15% of that offer was declined if I did not bow down by noon today. If I did not sign by noon today, I was going to lose 15% of the offer that they offered me. And then they would take my land at the highest appraisal plus 5%.
And let me just say this, because as a man of God, I can't encourage, but I think it's a damn shame what happened to you. We shouldn't have ladder room anybody threatening people. And here, I heard my councilman here say we got to deal with a time frame. I've heard people talk about time frame, and the time frame didn't happen. You know, to me, we got to start thinking more about it. I really believe in my heart of heart that this council that I'm sitting on right now are more about business than people. We shouldn't let no real estate come and threaten you with saying take it or leave it. I think the real estate people should be fired personally. We shouldn't have people doing business for us, threatening our citizens. Now, here, one thing you said that's confusing. We have the executive director of the Pope telling us one thing and Loud and Broom saying another thing. So that's confusion right there, because this should be on the same page. So right there, I'm confused about what's really happening and who's in control. And yet you have the citizen coming up here asking us questions, and we giving you vague answers, you saying.
I've listened to the last 3 meetings.
It is frightening, and I'm ashamed to say I'm a member of a government who have gotten to the point, but we don't really care about our citizens. We can't give our community, I want businesses.
Point of order. I do care about my citizens.
Y'all out of line, Rev.
Yep.
Y'all out of line.
I am unapologetic on my opinion. I was staying firm on it. I'm not frightened by what anybody say.
Point of order.
But I would say this, if the cap fits you, wear it and wear it tight. So again, I apologize to you for what's happening, and you're not the first citizen to come up here saying that we letting Loud and Broom go around and threaten our residents, and nothing haven't been done about it.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
I'm going to shut up because I'm not dressed to go to
I mean, it's always been the best parish on the West Bank. I mean, it is a very tight-knit community, and it just does not feel that way anymore.
Ms. McCarty, you had anything?
Yes. First, I object to being judged
Thank you, Ms. Ankar. Appreciate it.
by a Christian who's making a harsh judgment against me personally.
Let's. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to shut this down.
I have the mic.
I'm going to shut this down. No, this is
No,
getting out
I
of
need
hand.
to say something.
Say what you have to say, and that's it. I'm shutting it down. The item will be deferred, if I understand right, Mr. Champagne? Are we going to be deferring this? This is a deferred item?
Mr. Chairman, can I,
Oh, you had the last one.
Okay.
Reverting back to where I was 2 weeks ago.
Before you.
All right, I'll take one comment.
I did want to hear what from Mr. Chris, but no longer do want to hear at this moment, what the law was, what stipulations were about when there were timelines that people could accept certain offers, because I heard Mr. Tillotson mention that. But I don't want to go into that right now. What I do want to mention is that we have a sensitivity in this parish to having land inappropriately appropriated by the citizens. And my family, the Hingle family, and many other families were also experienced having land appropriated, misappropriated from them. I just lost the mic. It was my mother's parents who lost land, and they were not compensated at all. And I'm sure many of the people here experienced the same thing. So there's a sensitivity in this parish, a history of that. And I think that is an overlying issue that we're all experiencing when we're concerned about the issues and the emotions that people are experiencing during this whole process. So we do have to make sure that it is as proper as possible.
Thank you, ma'am. Item is deferred.
Can I speak?
Did you still want to go on? Yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Ms. Ankar, I would like to thank you for your comments. You're very passionate. You delivered your message very articulate. I want this council to know that this is Mr. Winey Ankar granddaughter, who happened to be, he was a parish hero. Mr. Tillotson, I would love for you to, and I think I have the consensus of the board, for you to personally handle this matter.
Okay.
Okay? Everybody in agreement?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Oh, before I go, you looking for a job?
Next item, please.
6A4 is deferred. B, an ordinance authorizing Charles Tilson as Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Plaquemines Parish Government for shared resources and services and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gooey, and this has changes.
Let's read the changes.
Sure. On line 24, the word "and" is inserted after the end of the whereas, and a new whereas has been added, which reads as follows. Whereas the council previously adopted resolution number 20-210, which authorized the parish and the port to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement for the purpose of improving harbors and access channels in Plaquemines Parish, and desires to amend and extend the same through 2025. Then we go down to section 2. That has changed from the original introduction, and it now reads, it hereby authorizes and directs Port Director Charles Tillotson to amend and extend through 2025 the cooperative endeavor agreement previously approved by resolution number 20-210 for the purpose of improving harbors and access channels in Plaquemines Parish. And the old number 2 has now become section 3.
Thank you. And with those changes, I will ask for a second.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jurisic. I'd like to turn this over to legal for a brief explanation. I think everyone on the council has been apprised of this, but just an explanation of what we're doing.
So we have two issues going on. I'll start with the interagency transfer issue, which is what Mr. Tillotson was talking about earlier, about how the port contributes for some of the services it receives from the government and also benefits from the government. These services are 911, civil service, the parish council, council secretary, emergency prep, telecommunications, ambulance services, and firefighting services. Their total contribution, after you add all that up, I have here from our finance department is $1.4 million, $1,430,000 and some change. This is something that's been going on from year to year. I think in previous years, we did not have a cooperative endeavor agreement. It's always been my position that we should have one. And so this is to go ahead and get that signed and done. So if there's ever an audit, we can show what transpired here. The addition was Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund Cooperative Endeavor Agreement. This is something that was previously approved by the council, and a cooperative endeavor agreement was in fact signed. It's since expired, and essentially what this is the port receives funds from the Army Corps of Engineers for basically the development of ports, harbors, navigation channels, et cetera. And because the port it didn't have those at the time, and I think still probably don't have what we have here. We've entered into a cooperative endeavor agreement to use those funds to develop our own ports, our own harbors, I should say, and navigation channels. They receive $1 million every year. We've done several projects with those funds already, and I know there are plans to do other projects as well. Mr. Helmers is here. He can tell you what we've done to date with these funds and what we intend to do in the future with the funds that would be continuously appropriated.
Yeah, Mr. Helmut, appreciate that. We're going to try to get all the information out before we ask for public comments, so.
Absolutely.
You're up.
John Helmers, Director of Coastal Resource and Protection. We've been working with the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund in cooperation with the commission and the port. We began with our first project was the Beers Harbor, which we've brought back from probably a -2 to a +7 feet. We dredged out that harbor, we cleaned it. We've permitted additional harbors. Point LaHash on this side is permitted. The final permit from the Corps is being issued. We had to change some lines for them. We've also permitted Port Eads. Currently, we're underway with this. The approval of this one is to start the navigation channel into the Empire Waterway, the harbors there. They changed the rules to the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund a little bit to allow us to do actual repairs in the harbors, to the berths, to the dock, to the boat lift, the shipyard, at the shipyard where we're having extremely amounts of trouble from the water flooding in. So this will all be covered under that HMT. Following the Empire process, then we start on Fort Jackson to put that back into operation because that's silted in from the river. So these funds will continue to come in through the Corps year after year. So when we're finished with the first round after Fort Jackson, then we go back and we evaluate Venice, because Venice was done recently as a job from Hurricane Katrina. And that was finished up. We took that down to a depth of, I think, a +10 at Venice. So that would be looked at next. So what this Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund and this agreement does, it puts us into a continuous cycle of maintaining all parish-owned harbors between the port and the council.
Thank you, sir, and as I appreciate it, we're creating a conduit to allow that to happen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. With that, is there any public comment before I go to the board? Come on up, Mr. Henry. State your name.
Hey, Arthur Henry Belchase. I'm not in favor of this, but I'm not in favor of the way the port was taken from the council as the government of the people.
Mr. Henry,
Hey, I can make a comment, okay?
Yeah.
Now, the comment to the CEA.
No, we'd like to hear how you feel about the CEA. Yes, sir.
That's what I say. I'm not in favor of it. That's the reason why I'm not in favor of it. I really do think the port need to go back under being a real subsidiary of Blackman Parish government.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Board members, Mr. LaFrance, I have you up. Oh, come on. I'm so sorry, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I wanted to just ask about something.
Clarence Brooks, Phoenix, Louisiana, 156 crossover land. I know I was only supposed to talk about the harbors, the port harbors, but in March, Point LaHash, right down the marina by the Point LaHash, in March, the water came up and almost halfway to the levee. So in any kind of way we could support that area, to put some kind of barrier, stop the water from coming across the levee from some of these funds that we're getting. Some of the funds that we're getting is to build some kind of barrier or build the levee up higher, because in March, it's a rainy day, and the wind came out of the east, put the water halfway up the levee. So I know most of the money gonna go to the harbor,
Harbor maintenance.
Maintenance. Is there any kind of way we can stop the water from coming across the levee in that area? That's
Well,
the lowest spot.
I would get with Mr. Helmers on that particular issue, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Thank you, Clarence. Appreciate it. Anyone else in the audience? Mr. Newsom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, you know, I'm looking at the CEA. I support the CEA. Just a couple questions. Some of these reimbursable, we talked about interagency fees. how did we determine the percentages? Did we, you know, because I think they're a little off, in my opinion. You know, I think they're a little off. So how did we come about that? Was it?
Yeah, those percentages were pre-established, and if you remember, last year, as I came on board and the 2021 financial audit had not been completed, we completed it in March. That was one of the items on there, that we did not have this CEA in place. So one thing I want to clarify, we're actually renewing, this was a 2013 CEA that did not have an expiration date. Those percentages were preset, and it is something that, in my opinion, the right thing to do is when we go into the 2024 budgeting session, that we look at those percentages, and instead of just, you know, throwing some budgeting numbers in there, we actually, you know, figure out what those percentages should really be.
So the numbers were previously based off of, for the 911 services, they were based on the daily call log, labor only.
Yeah, I don't need everyone, just a.
Okay, well, some of them were based off actuals, like daily call logs, and telecommunications set up for the meetings. Almost all of the other ones were an estimate of time on port matters. So the council would have provided that to finance, and that's how those numbers were.
Yeah, no, you've answered the question. 2013, and it's a little outdated, and during budget hearings, we'll address it at that time.
Right, and
Thank you.
And if those percentages change, you know, we're definitely, I mean, we're open to discussing that.
Well, I think that's an administrative function that you'll pursue and advise us accordingly. Commissioner Schultz.
I'm pretty much saying the same thing I talked about last week at the budget hearing. I think council and council secretary needs to come up, because I know majority of our time is on port matters. Council secretary still has the same stuff that she has to prepare. And then civil service running compared to total port and parish employees and taking the percentage, it needs to go up. But if we'll look at that budget time, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schultz. Commissioner Edwards.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand this Port Harbor. I thought it was sort of like a grant where you give money out at all.
Which, are we
So
talking
you're
about?
using money, this Port Harbor Fund is money that,
It is a grant from the federal government to the port.
Okay.
And because the port doesn't have boat harbors, but the government does, that's why the cooperative endeavor agreement is signed, because the port, then we use those funds that are provided to the port.
so how much of the Port Harbor Fund has the port used in terms of dollars and cents?
I don't know the total. Well, it's a million. It's roughly $1 million annually. I don't know what's been spent to date. I do know the port currently owes the government $1.9 million for work that was done. And once again, every year the I shouldn't say the appropriation. The grant is about $1 million. So basically, we're talking about $1 million every year.
Okay, and Mr. Hammer, would you step up, because when you talked about how much of this grant and how much was used on each port, do you have the dollar sign? How much was used on the various port in terms of dollars and cents?
I do have some of that information. The Buras Boat Harbor dredging, we've used $366,000 for engineering and design.
Buras was how much?
$366 for engineering and design. Portage was $248,000. East Point Lahash Marina.
You said Portage?
Portage.
I didn't know we were doing
permits. We filed all the permits for every harbor that we have.
Okay.
To have everything ready, because as you know, a permit takes up to 18 to 24 months, sometimes longer. So we put that to work to get these harbors in line so we can move forward at the time when they're needed to be done.
Okay.
Empire Waterways, $190,000 in engineering and design. The Buras Boat Harbor dredging was $1,322,000. Land acquisitions for the Buras Harbor was $55,000. The Buras Boat Harbor Direct was $8,000. And that's the amount that we've had for each project that's been spent so.
What about Point LaHash? I didn't hear you mention
Point
Point LaHash.
LaHash, I don't, let me see if I get that number. I don't have the breakdown on the Point LaHash.
And why wouldn't you have Point LaHash breakdown?
It wasn't just printed on this sheet for some reason.
Isn't that strange?
Hold on. The permits are approved for that one anyway. The work's been done, but I just don't have the financial.
I'm good. I'm used to these banks being left out of.
Hold on, I'm looking to see to make sure I didn't overlook.
Well, did anyone ask you to bring that today? Were you
No, I
asked?
just
Okay.
brought this with
You just
me.
happen to have it.
Yes, I happen to have this in my,
But get that to me, please.
yes, sir.
I wonder, what are we doing at Port Eid?
Port Eads.
Yeah, what are we
It's
doing
renting
down
of
there?
The channels to access the fuel dock and the boat harbor that's in the back. Currently at this time, after the permits were filed and all the research was done on it, the depths were checked and all the geotech work was done, it don't fit the dredge right now. We don't need to go in and attack that, but it's permitted to go. This will help us put that back into commerce at one point.
Because we're not getting any kind of money from Port Eid at this time. It's not generating the funds to the parish at this time, right?
Port Eads does not, no.
Okay. Okay.
Good. Anyone else at the table? We've been here 2 hours. We finally get to vote. All right, I think. Machine is open. Any item is approved, 8 yeas and a no vote from District 1. Next item, please.
6C, an ordinance to amend, as amended, readopt ordinance number 2346 that created the unclassified position of legal assistant to the Port Executive Council and amend the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District manpower structure, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gui.
I'll offer ask for a second.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Newsom. I think we're all aware of this, at least peripherally, but I would like for the port staff to maybe explain it a little more in depth on behalf of informing the public.
Yes, thank you. So this is a legal assistant position. I think as everyone knows that we actually have our deputy director is a deputy and legal counsel, and she's pulled in multiple directions every day. And the purpose for this position is to help us to handle the day-to-day legal activities in terms of updating contracts, leases, ordinances, legislation, to make sure that we can stay on top of those daily routine tasks to free our deputy up to be able to manage some of the bigger picture stuff and just be able to walk in and finalize those documents.
We're open for public comment. Anyone? Board members, any comments? Commissioner Newsom?
Yes, sir, thank you. Mr. Tillotson, will this individual report, who will he report to?
They will report to the deputy.
Deputy Director, thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else at the table? Yes, Commissioner LaFrance?
Yes, please give a number for Mr. Henry.
$60,000.
Commissioner Edwards?
So now, this gonna be, we having two legal assistants, because I thought we had already funded a legal assistant person already, so this is gonna be
So-
additional one?
So we advertised, we've been having a real
No, I'm
challenge.
saying just additional to the one,
No,
that's the
so
same one.
we hired a legal assistant, and for human resource reasons that I cannot disclose, that person is no longer with us. So it's the same position.
Okay.
And what we found is that when you look at the market, And we interviewed multiple candidates, and we continually bumped up to the fact that if we really want the type of quality that we're looking for, we had to be at the $60,000 range. So it's a different, same position, different person.
Anyone else? Sheen is open. And the ordinance is approved unanimously. Next.
D, an ordinance authorizing Charles Tilton as Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to enter into due diligence discussions and negotiations for the potential purchase of the building formerly known as the Red Star Yeast Plant, located at 8391 Belchase Highway, Belchase, Louisiana 70037, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gooey.
I'll offer S for second. Seconded by Commissioner Champagne. Before we ask for public comment, just a brief explanation. I have, over the years, have met with people representing the Red Star Yeast Plant with some wonderful ideas on what to do and how to put this back into commerce. And year after year, I get residents saying, when are you going to get that eyesore out of Belchase? Like I can do that, right? All of the attempts to do anything with this have not been successful for various number of reasons. So now an opportunity has presented itself to allow the port, in conjunction with the government, to see about the feasibility as to whether or not it would be wise for us to even consider this. And we were able to get an agreement that we would put up $200,000 should we choose to back out after due diligence. We get our money back. But it's the first attempt since I've been around, and I've been here since the last century, that an opportunity is presenting itself that may, just may have some substance to it. So I'm offering that, and I'm opening up the floor for public comment. Mr. Henry?
Say you're putting up 200,000. Is that an asking price for the property?
No. No, sir, no, sir. I'll get into that. This is to put up to secure that no one else will sell the property. It's refundable should we choose to see it's not feasible.
But you can't tell us how much they're asking for.
They're asking for what,
2.3 million. If I could speak, I appreciate the question. And,
Go ahead.
I just want to say to the council and to the public, I'm very excited about this opportunity. I can tell you, I've been in the port space for over 4 decades. I watched this happen in Jack London Square in the Port of Oakland. I watched it happen in San Francisco, where old historic warehouses and buildings were rehabilitated and really turned into kind of a commerce hub. So I think we have a great opportunity in front of us to do that here with this building and make it something that Louisianans are going to want to come to Belchase, for events, at this facility. In addition, the port's growing. We're growing extremely fast. We think we're going to hit number 11 tonnage port in the United States at the end of this year. In 4 or 5 years, we're going to be about the number 4 or 5 tonnage ports inside of the United States. With that, is just going to, we have to grow the staff. And the building that we're in now, we're making the best of it. And we plan on, in the meantime, really trying to improve what we have there. But in 5 years, we will have outgrown the space. So this is an opportunity, for us to create that new space. More importantly, do this hand in hand with the parish. President Hinckley, myself, and Ms. Foss, we've had lots of discussion about this, and we're excited, and we think that it's going to really offer, some new opportunities to the parish.
Well, we all look forward to seeing where this can go.
But we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know how much it's going to cost. We just know we're requesting $200,000 to take it off the market, to do our due diligence, to determine what needs to happen, and then come up with an engineering cost and a design cost on it, what it would cost to develop it out. We anticipate that process will take us approximately 6 months, I think. But today, it's an eyesore, and what my vision is as port director is for it to be a jewel for Belle Chase and for Plaquemines Parish in the future.
Okay, I've been like that for a while. I remember when Governor Edwards was the governor, when the casino boats came around, that was one area they wanted, but the people in Belle Chase didn't want it. But anyhow, I'm for it. I'm for it. I think it's a good deal for the port. Just the land itself, it's prime real estate in Belle Chase. So even if you just buy the land, I don't think you can go wrong with it.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Commissioner Jurcic.
Yes, my question would be, after all the studies are done, you looked at the asbestos and everything, and if it came back that it just, you wanted to move forward, would that come back to us for a vote to move forward?
That's absolutely correct. We would finish the due diligence, and what I would like to do is not only come back to the council, but have a town hall meeting and really kind of lay out a model of what it would look like to ensure that the community agrees with this vision, joint, port and parish vision.
Commissioner Edwards.
Yes, when I first heard about this, I called Mr. Tilton because I used to live in Oakland for 2.5 years and went to school out there. And last year, I took my wife to Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
And because Jack London spot is the spot where I used to go listen to jazz and catch the ferry to go over to San Francisco. And I told him I saw that development.
Yes.
And what I suggested to Mr. Tilton, you ought to bring pictures for this council to see it. Arthur, what I saw in Oakland is a beautiful site. It will look beautiful on that river. I actually seen that when I was in Oakland, last year with my wife, and it's a beautiful site, and I think it would add a lot of ambiance to the Mississippi River.
Thank you. And what we'll do is we'll post some of those photos on our website for the public to see.
Commissioner Konovich.
The price on the paper is the appraised price, or that's what they want?
The appraised price that we're talking, the $2.3 million, is only for the building itself. The Badger will be separate.
At $800,000, but her property with 13 acres appraised for $190. She's got River Badger too. I'm done.
Anyone else? Sheena's open. The ordinance is approved 8-1, no vote coming from District 9. Next item, please.
E, an ordinance authorizing Charles D. Tilton as Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Parish of Jefferson, State of Louisiana, represented herein by Scott A. Walker, Chairperson of the Jefferson Parish Council, the parish's governing authority, City of Gretna, represented herein by Belinda Constant, its mayor. Commissioner Gui.
I'll offer ask for a second. Second by Commissioner Champagne. Mr. Tillotson, I will let you briefly explain.
Right. I would just like to, the reason for this CEA is for the parish, Plaquemines Parish and Jefferson Parish, and the port to collaborate on the development of the Peters and Walker Road rail bypass. We've had about, I think, 9 meetings with Jefferson Parish and the city of Gretna. I think it's no secret to anyone that the rail that runs down Belle Chase Highway can sometimes be a nuisance. And what we're wanting to do here is create that bypass that will come down Peters Road and cross the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway and land behind the Joint Base Belle Chase to take that rail traffic out of the middle of the Belle Chase Highway. We believe that by doing this, it is going to increase the growth capacity for the port tenfold. And it is going to make it safer. In addition, bringing the rail along the backside of the Joint Base Belle Chase provides some strategic capability that we are looking at trying to leverage with the United States Transportation Command. And today, this project has been on the books for over a decade, and there's been zero engineering done. So our focus now is to collaborate closely with Jefferson Parish officials and the city of Gretna and to come up with the funding for a 30% engineering and planning design for this project so that we can put a real timeline on when it starts and when it'll be complete.
Thank you, sir. I'll open the floor for public comment.
Arthur Henry, Belle Chase. You're right, Mr. Tillerson. This has been going on for a long time. I was in a Gretna Council meeting when they had started this. And it's going to cost a whole lot of money. When they do them realignments of that railroad, especially with the engineering and design parts, especially when it comes to Plaquemine side, I hope we have some public meeting to have some input than tearing up neighborhoods, man. Because Gretna wanted out of their neighborhood, but the people were going to go around Peters Road, horrible, the community has been just devastated, man. So, but I'm just talking about the Plaquemine side. When it comes to our side, I just hope we have some community input on where those railroad tracks are going. Because that's been a contention all in the 10 years. Dr. Gouy was in those meetings. Mr. Botany was in those meetings. So that never did left yet, you know? So I'm just wishing that the public have some input in that. That's all.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I offer up to the Port Commission that I think that it will be in order for us to have a series of town hall meetings as we get through this design process to ensure that the public is made aware of exactly what the plans will look like. And then we should also be articulating what the benefit of this change would be as well at that time.
Yes, sir. At the appropriate time, I know that will happen, particularly that you're looking after grant money and public hearings are necessary. Commissioner Newsom.
Thank you. Mr. Tillerson, I've read this agreement and in agreement with it, but I just gotta, I guess you can clear something up for me. I don't understand. 2.0 payment. Can you explain to me what that means? What is that all? What is that? What is it?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
The 2.0, the cost?
So as of right now, I provided a copy of the CEA to the council members. So through our meetings, we determined that to just get the engineering started, that it's estimated to cost about $750,000. It was requested that from Jefferson Parish and from Gretna that we share. So we would be, we're proposing to pay about 33%, sharing that with Jefferson Parish and the city of Gretna. And that's just to get us started. And we're working closely with Gretna's, one of their consultants now, actually applying for a couple of grants. And we're looking for an estimated $10 to $15 million for that 30% design, which that would be awarded next year. There could be some matching, so a 10% match. And I'm sure we would be asked to participate in that matching, which would be probably another, $300,000 to $400,000. I think it's just important to note that this project, as Mr. Henry stated, has been on the books for a very long time, but there has never been any engineering and planning design completed for this project. So in order for us to really make it real and put some real deadlines and some real milestones, we have to start that engineering. And I think it's appropriate for Plaquemines, Jefferson Parish, the city of Gretna, and the port to collaborate together to make this happen.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else at the table? Machine is open. And the ordinance is approved unanimously. Next item, please.
7, new business. No items under 7A. 8, approval of the July 13th, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
So move. Seconded by Commissioner LaFrance. Machine is open. Minutes are unanimously approved. I have a motion from Commissioner Newsom for adjournment. I will second. The machine is open. And adjournment is approved 9 to, Mr. Edwards had to step out the room, 8-0.